Underutilized cast or underutilized character is a term that you'll hear from some consumers of media, and if you haven't heard of it before, I wouldn't be surprised. It's not a widely recognized formal term in the world of literature, but of course that does not matter as long as it has teeth and provide actual guidance and improvements in the writing world. Then that's all it needs to be, because if you have watched this channel, then you would know that there are some formal terms that are widely recognized as formal terms that are used in criticism, but when you dig beneath the surface of those criticisms, then they are very obviously not based on objective reality and more based off of the subjective judgment of these stories. And unfortunately, I would say that this term underutilized cast or character is in the same category, where it seems that it is something that stems more from readers who want the characters that they like to be more developed or are used more in the story itself, in the plot, regardless of whether or not that still stays true to the purpose of the story. A popular example I can make is of Rock Lee from the Naruto series, and how I've noticed that the fandom does want more of Rock Lee, but when you listen and dive into their suggestions on how Rock Lee will be in the series and what he'll be doing, you see that these actions that he's taking, these hypothetical actions that he's taking, have nothing to do with the main theme of understanding others, or at least creating a sub-theme that will be eventually connected to the major themes of the story. And of course, this could be executed in many ways, outside of a direct tie-in through the themes, where you could explore Lee's journey through his taijutsu and it would reveal more about the world, adding world building. But ultimately, it is through that world building that you would learn more about what the series is about fundamentally. And so in some way, shape or form, everything you're seeing is still servicing the main purpose of the story. And so this is what you usually see, where it's mostly about seeing more of your favorite character than it is about the purpose of the story itself. But of course, we're not going to throw the baby with the bathwater. I still believe a reader can identify an underutilized character, but the key traits that the character must have already shown by the author is their connection to the main theme, or their potential connection to the main theme of the story or the plot. And I would say, for the sake of example, that the character Yuki Tsukumo from Jujutsu Kaisen would fit in that category, where on my first reading, admittedly I've only read the series once, and even with my own experience in the field, I think that it's important that I still have to read it a few more times to truly see if this is the case. But for the sake of example, I'm just going to say that from what I saw is that her character is a great example of someone who is seemingly very important to the main plot and the main themes of the show, as she is the progenitor of the very thought of a long-term solution to the curses, and she is essentially the driving force contributing to Suguru Geto's fall from grace. And so I thought, based off of my first time reading, I had believed that she would play a far more pivotal role in some way, shape or form in the story. And this could have gone in many different ways. And so of course I do not have any set thoughts on how she should have been used in the story. Of course, only the author could know that, as the author is the only one that truly knows what they want to do with their story. But I will say that based off of my first time reading, it allowed me to understand what the sentiment was behind the phrase, or the meme rather, of the underutilized character. When it comes to underutilized cast, I feel like it becomes far more murkier, because I feel like that could be something that can be said for anything in the story, especially when the story has been completed and you just want to be able to use characters more effectively, because now you know what the actual themes of the story is since the story is finished. You understand what was trying to be said. And I would say that it's something that belongs far more to the author, as you'd see from many authors really, that once they're done with publication, they have regrets about their own show, whether they wanted to develop other characters more than others. And that's usually not from a criticism standpoint of the characters in the show that they've already written, but more a sense of creative boost that comes from seeing how you developed your story and your themes throughout the entire story, and you feel that if I had just added a few more lines here, or if I added a few arcs here and there, maybe 2 more chapters with this character, I feel like I would have gotten the point across even more. And anyone feels this way, depending on how dedicated they are about their work, whether it's schoolwork or anything like that. I'm sure all of us have felt that feeling that if you had just put 2% more into something, whether it's your workouts or your CV, your presentation, your speeches, whatever it may be, that it could have been better or you could have gotten your point across more. And of course, the more common experience, which is arguments, where upon reflection on the argument, you would have said this instead of that. And I would say to that extent, it's an understandable feeling. And I would even go as far as to say that if you as an author feel that you have an underutilized cast, then don't be afraid to add more even after the publication of your novel. As long as what you're doing is to add on and not to subtract from the character or the cast themselves, then I believe it's something that you should have the right to do, as it simply improves the final product for the audience. But with that being said, I think those are my full thoughts on this concept or meme. And so in summary, I would say that if someone does bring it up, you'd ask them to explain themselves, and if that explanation doesn't really add on to the series meaningfully, then it is a pointless criticism. And when it comes from the author, I believe that the author should act on that rather than keep it as wishful thinking. And so it falls in the context matters category. Yeah, with that, that's the end of the video.